Eine Frage zuvor, ist die Klasse auf Deutsch oder in Englisch? Oder auf Englisch? Englisch. Ja? Wer versteht kein Englisch? Oder nicht so gut? Kann jemand übersetzen für? You translate? And...
You can come here also.
Okay.
Same language.
Okay. So, classes in English. I have 2 English books also. Perfect. October 19th, 1976. Programs over, we left Chandigarh to return to Delhi. Before we left, Srila Prabhupada spoke with Chaitya Guru Prabhu, thanking him for his efforts and praising the highly successful visit. He told him to stick to Chandigarh and preach strongly, declaring it is one of the best places for propagating Krishna consciousness. He also sincerely thanked Mr. Sethi for his kind hospitality in allowing us to use the use of his house, both during our stay and as a temporary ISKCON center. The rest of the party left by van at 10:30 a.m., while Srila Prabhupada and myself flew out at 1:30 in the afternoon. Gopal Krishna Prabhu was careful not to mess up the travel arrangements this time. The flight took 50 minutes in an old Fokker Friendship propeller plane. It was very noisy and cramped, but much better than driving. We were met at the airport by Gagamuni Swami and all the members of his highly successful library party. Jagadisha Prabhu, our ISKCON Minister of Education, was also there. He will be Prabhupada's secretary for the next month or so. Hansadutta Swami will rejoin his bus party and begin preaching in the villages again. So, und jetzt kommen sie im Tempel von, now they arrive at the temple in New Delhi. Shishi Radha Pata Sarati Mandira, 21A, Feroz Gandhi Road, Lajpat Nagar 3. Arriving to an enthusiastic reception at the temple, Srila Prabhupada invited the crowd of devotees and onlookers into his room for general darshan. As everyone jammed in, Prabhupada sat down comfortably, smiling and attentive, and happy to hear from his GBCs and preachers. Gagamuni Swami gave yet another positive report of ever-increasing orders and favorable receptions in the field of library distribution. Though usually scattered over the country, most of his men are here to see Prabhupada, and they crowded around, eager to hear his response and hopeful of personal direction. Library and university distribution has been going on in the West now for a couple of years and has attracted Prabhupada's special attention and praise. And it is clear that they are all feeling it an honor and a privilege to be doing this service. Prabhupada had high praise for their efforts and success and encouraged them to continue. Bhagavat Prabhu is also here in Delhi, and he had some interesting news from Orissa. He reported that Govinda Maharaj is staying there on a deserted plot of land just outside Bhubaneswar. He is mostly alone, living in a small brick hut with a thatched roof and no electricity that the local people constructed for him, and is steadily translating Prabhupada's books into Oriya. Bhagavat and Gagamuni both gave their opinions that it would not be good to build a temple there, because it is too far out of the way, and anyway we would probably be able to build only a small one-story structure. They both favor establishing something in Jagannath Puri, about an hour's drive from Bhubaneswara. And there seems to be some promising developments there. Gagamuni said that he had found a disused house situated on a large plot of land in a good beachfront location. We have also been offered some land by the government, but he said that this land was not so good, being inaccessible and out of the main town. Bhagavat has made his main work the attempt to gain entrance for our foreign devotees into the main Jagannath temple in Puri. He told Srila Prabhupada that there is a lot of opposition from the pandas and pujaris, but that the local government officials are very favorable. There will be a meeting between the government and the temple managers within a few weeks, and Bhagavat expressed his confidence that we will be granted permission to enter. He promised Srila Prabhupada that as soon as permission comes, he will arrange for his divine grace to go there and enter the temple at the head of a grand parade of all his Western devotees. Prabhupada smiled at his news and told us, "I will not go to Jagannath Puri unless they allow my disciples to enter the temple." Yeah, I'll stop here. Any questions or comments? So, seid ihr schon mal in Jagannath Puri gewesen? Was? Du warst da? Sonst keiner? You were there? No, no one was in Jagannath Puri? You were there. Have you entered the Jagannath temple, the big temple? Why not?
We were not allowed.
It's still not allowed for Westerners to enter there. So.
Even if some of the Russians, not of our group but previous groups, they managed to enter, but there is somehow very advanced transcendental. They were allowed to.
Yeah, okay.
Even Haridas Thakur.
Yeah, Haridas Thakur was not allowed.
What say about us?
What to speak of us, yeah. Yeah, any questions to what we have read? There was nothing philosophical in here of what I have read. Just Srila Prabhupada leaving one place, Chandigarh, and arriving at a New Delhi temple. Yes?
Was ist denn im Jagannath, gibt es Einheimische in dem Jagannath-Tempel, die erzählt haben, was in diesem Tempel ist? Warum man auch nicht da rein darf? Oder?
Warum? Why one cannot enter into the temple?
Yeah.
Well, they have kind of a strict standard that only people with pious and they understand Hindu background are allowed to enter there.
Is there any secret in this temple? Or?
Secret? Yeah, there are big secrets there. Jagannath is there. Big Jagannath deity. This is, that temple in Jagannath Puri. This big temple is so special because there's Jagannath, Baladeva and Subhadra. Big temples. Very historic temple, very old. Many pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 500 years ago took place in and around the Jagannath temple. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to stay many years I don't know how many, at least
18.
18 years, yeah. 18 years, constantly in Jagannath Puri, without traveling. He had some time when he was traveling, but in the last period of his life, he stayed in Jagannath Puri. And he used to see Lord Jagannath every day. They were, by one devotee, I don't remember who it was, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya maybe. There, he said there is the non-moving Supreme Personality of Godhead and the moving Supreme Personality of Godhead. Both were residing in Jagannath Puri. Non-moving was Jagannath, because obviously to the eyes he was not moving, except for once a year in the parade he was moving. And there was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the moving personality of Godhead, both on the same level. Yeah, yes?
There's many temples in India where Westerners are not allowed to enter.
Okay.
Not just Jagannath. And also in all these temples they have announcements that you're not supposed to take any photos. So it's just in response to his question.
Okay.
Church is the same.
In the church is the same.
Yes.
I mean Westerners, white people are not allowed in.
Yeah.
In the South India, not so strict. If you sign paper about you accept Hindu religion, then with this paper you allowed to come.
We went to Tirupati. As you can see, we were invited because we had our meeting in Tirupati. Tirumala is the temple. No, anyway, so, and we were allowed because they knew we were Jivasena, governing body of the ISKCON movement. And so we also had to fill up the forms. But under religion, we were not allowed to put Hindu. We were supposed to put Christian because we're Westerners.
But I was also allowed to go to enter into the Tirupati temple without signing anything. Together with my wife, we once went. I didn't even know.
You had to wait a long time to see the deities.
Yeah, a few hours in the
We
line.
didn't have to wait.
We had to wait. We were standing in line. Actually,
We were allowed to have a special darshan. Normally, when you go to the Tirupati temple, then you're in line, and some pilgrims who come there, they have to wait for days sometimes until because there's so many pilgrims wanting to have darshan, and when they get there, finally they stay in front of the deity. They're not supposed to stay long. They just just to see them and finish.
Yeah, we have a...
And we were allowed to stay a little longer.
Great, special. Yeah, when I was there, a few seconds we were allowed. We were standing in line for a few hours, and we were happy because you could see from the arrangements that it could take days. There were arrangements, when you come close to the temple, there is arrangements that people are in line, and many arrangements there for kilometers, to have lines of kilometers. Tirupati, Balaji temple, very famous, another very famous temple in India. And then you have darshan, and it's a few seconds. You come in front of Balaji, and you look, and immediately the guards come, and next one. Because there are so many people visiting, so if you stay longer and everyone would stay longer, then all the people who come there, they couldn't see. deity. But our experience in Jagannath Puri was that even if you come close to the temple, you are looking, the guards are already coming. No, 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 no. You are stay far away from the temple.
There was a prince, a king. They had a king in Jagannath Puri. They still have. And the prince became attracted by Muslim girl. And he got married to a Muslim girl, so the priest would not allow him to come in anymore because he was contaminated by the Muslim association. And in order to give him some mercy, on the Lion's Gate, there's a main gate in front of the temple, they put a picture inside the gate, so he could come and take darshan there. And one time I went there, and I wanted to see the picture. I came close to the gate when you say. Immediately the police came and stopped me because I wasn't Indian that day.
Yeah, the philosophical background of this understanding in Jagannath Puri and other temples in India is that unless you are born Hindu, you are contaminated. You cannot become Hindu or not a real Hindu. That is contrary to Vaishnava understanding that initiation and following the process laid out by the great acharyas makes you pure. That is what causes purity. Not being born or sign up for a religious institution, convert to a religious institution, being member of a group of faith doesn't make you pure. Vaishnava understanding is that initiation and following your initiation vows, leading actually a spiritual life, is what makes you pure. Not belonging to an institution or being born in a certain place, automatically you are fine. It's not like this. This is Vaishnava understanding. Yeah, but as we can see all over the world, religions have their dogmas. No? It's like this. This is our understanding and their doctrine. And it's not always, it doesn't always make sense. Many times it doesn't make sense at all. Or it's not always according to what the scriptures say. If you read the scripture, it's very different. Okay, any questions or comments? Then read the Bhagavatam. Big heavy book today, the English version is much heavier. What verse is it? 31, 24. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Te api tan mukha niryatam yasho loka malapaham hare nishamya tat padam yayantas tat gatim yayu te pitan mukha niryatam Yasholoka malapaham Hare nishamyatat padam Yayantastat katim yayu Tepitan mukhaniryatam Yasholoka malapaham Hare nishamyatat padam Yayantastat katim yayu Tepitan mukhaniryatam Yasholoka malapaham Anea Hare nishamyatat padam Yayantastat katim yayu Ja, bitte. Te, the Prachetas, Api, also, Tat, of Narada, Mukha, from the mouth, Nyayatam, gone forth, Yasha, glorification, Loka, of the world, Mala, sins, Apaham, destroying, Hare, of Lord Hari, Nishamya, having heard, Tat, of the Lord, Param, feet, Dhyayanta, meditating upon, Tatgatim, unto his abode, Yayu, went. Translation: hearing from Narada's mouth the glories of the Lord, which vanquish all the ill fortune of the world, the Prachetas also became attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Meditating on his lotus feet, they advance to the ultimate destination. Purport. Here it is seen that by hearing the glories of the Lord from realized devotees, the prachetas easily attained strong attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then, meditating on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord at the end of their lives, they advanced to the ultimate goal, Vishnu Loka. It is sure and certain that anyone who always hears the glories of the Lord and thinks of his lotus feet will reach that supreme destination. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 1865, Manmana bhava mad bhakto yajimam namaskuru mamevashyasi satyam te pratijane prayosime. Always think of me and become my devotee, worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this, because you are my very dear friend. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyanandana Shalakaya Chaksho Militam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namah Vanchakalpa Tarupyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. So, and with this verse, the story of the prachetas ends in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The prachetas, they were who? Who were the prachetas?
Sons of King Prachinabarisha.
Okay. Many, no? 10 prachetas, okay. 10 sons of King Prachinabarishat. So this whole section of the Srimad Bhagavatam is, some chapters are about the father, and some chapters are about his sons, the prachetas. And on the whole, a long story which comes to its end now. The prachetas had already been blessed by Shiva and even by Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They were fortunate enough in the beginning of their lives to meet Lord Shiva, who taught them prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then Vishnu was so pleased with the prachetas, he appeared personally before them and also blessed them that they would have a long life, enjoy a long life on the heavenly planets, and at the end of their lives they would return home to the spiritual world, to the abode of Vishnu. Now in this chapter, or in the previous chapter, in this section, at the end of their lives, end of the lives of the prachetas, after they had enjoyed so much in the material world, Narada Muni appeared before them to remind them of the supreme goal, which it is said in one verse they had almost forgotten. Because that is the nature of the material world, that the living entities forget their identity. They forget their relation with God, the real purpose of life, the real function of this world. Because that is the nature of the material world, that it causes forgetfulness. It covers the soul, the spirit soul, the living entity, with forgetfulness. So in our material science, in our modern civilization, there's so much research into material nature. No? So when we hear nowadays the verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says that material energy consists of earth, water, fire, air, and ether, and then 3 subtle elements, mind, intelligence, and ego. When they hear of the gross elements, this is primitive knowledge. We have much more understanding of material nature, of the molecules, the atoms, and so many things. And that's why we can produce so wonderful things for our comfort, for living comfortably, to fight diseases, to fight against things that we don't want, to increase our enjoyment. So material scientific knowledge is all about this point of view of material nature, what it consists of, what are the elements, what can we do with it to increase our happiness, to enjoy, and what can we do to prevent suffering. That is the idea of every living entity, and human civilization is very much focused on this, with big plans, with big investigations. And the problem is that the main function of the material nature, the main characteristics, we don't understand. The main characteristic of material nature is what we have said before, is to cover the consciousness of the living entity. And we don't know how this happens, and we don't even know that it happens, that we are covered. We don't know how it happens. So that's why knowledge in the scriptures is so important. And that knowledge, what comes from the scriptures, especially the pure scriptures, like the Srimad Bhagavatam, which speak about the ultimate goal of life, about the ultimate knowledge. Ultimate knowledge, there are all the Vedic scriptures, so many scriptures, so many verses, but the summary of all of it, the essence, is Vedanta Sutra or Brahma Sutra. Sutras, small, how do you say, komprimierte? Condensed, right? Condensed, yes. Condensed verses that describe the essence of all knowledge. It's very condensed. Because Vedic literature is huge, is so immense. In one lifetime, you cannot study all this. What to speak of understanding all this? So it is condensed in the essence of the essence of the essence. That is also in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the very beginning, in the first chapter, when the sages of Naimisharanya met Sutta Goswami, and they were very much aware that Kali Yuga has started. In Kali Yuga, we don't have the capacity to study so much. We don't have much lifetime. The mind is always disturbed. So they immediately, the first question they ask Sutta Goswami is, tell us the ultimate good for all humanity. Tell us the essence of all scriptures. We cannot waste time with studying this and that and the complete Vedas. We don't have time. Nor does anyone in Kali Yuga have time or the capacity to do that. So the essence is described in sutras, in Vedanta Sutra. But this knowledge is so condensed, you need a very, very sharp brain to understand. The essence is described in short, in brief, but you don't understand it. It has to be translated for normal humans, like us. And that is the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the Srimad Bhagavatam, in that sense, is the best of all scriptures to understand ultimate reality. Because it is dealing with its essence only, with the most important facts, but in a way that can be understood, assimilated, and also practiced by people in Kali Yuga. That's why this book is so important. Srimad Bhagavatam is the most important scriptures of all. So that's why we are advised to study this literature daily. Hear from Srimad Bhagavatam daily. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, it says in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam. One should always study Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srila Prabhupada says here in the purport, it's a short purport, but the statement is here referring to the verse where the Prachetas had heard from Narada Muni, pure devotee, Acharya, from his mouth about the glories of the Lord, which vanquished on one side all the ill fortune of the world. Ill fortune of the world is what we have said before. Your consciousness is covered. You don't understand what's going on. You don't even understand who you are. You forget everything. And to become attached to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, Prabhupada says, it is sure and certain that anyone who always hears the glories of the Lord and thinks of his lotus feet will reach that supreme destination. So, Vedic knowledge, or the essence of Vedic knowledge, can be divided in 3 parts. And the first part is Sambandha. Sambandha means to understand what is there at all. Who is God? Who are you, first of all? What is this material world? What is God, or who is God? And what are the relationships between these? And the next part is Avideya. So theoretical knowledge is not sufficient. You understand, okay, you read in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna comes to this point immediately after Arjuna accepts Krishna as spiritual master. He immediately explains the nature of the soul. Jiva Tattva. That the spirit soul is eternal and different from its body. So that is a relation between the soul, basic relation between the soul and material elements. The soul is different from material elements. However, in the atmosphere, in the material atmosphere, in Maya, we are made to think in another way, that we consist of material elements. We are this body. And the problem with that is that every person who thinks and feels like that, he lives how to say, schizophrene. How do you say that in English?
Schizophrenic.
Yeah, schizophrenic. Is schizophrenic. Nowadays, I mean always, but especially now, all people live a schizophrenic life. Because what is a common belief in our society. What we learn at school, at the universities, what is common scientific knowledge. There's a process of evolution. Everything comes from atoms.